Welcome. Tonight, let us take a step away from the roaring halls of castles and courts. Let us drift instead toward a quieter world, one with no banners, no titles, no armor, just the quiet rhythm of the seasons, of earth turned underfoot, and of the lives lived close to the soil. This is the story of the medieval village, not as we often imagine it in fairy tales or in films, but as it was, slow, repetitive, and wrapped in its own quiet weight. Let your breath soften, let your thoughts quiet, and follow me into the world of the serf, where every morning began in the dark, and every evening ended with aching limbs. But also, sometimes with the comfort of knowing your place in the turning of the year. You are awake long before the sun rises. The air in the cottage is cold, the kind of cold that bites not with wind, but with damp. The slow chill that seeps in through walls of wattle and daub and settles into your bones. You sleep on a straw-stuffed mattress. The thatch above you leaks if the rain has been heavy, and a thin blanket patched many times is all that keeps the morning air from your skin. You pull on your wool tunic, scratchy and coarse, and wrap a belt around your waist to hold it in place. Your shoes, if you have them, are simple leather, cracked from the damp and worn thin on the sole. More likely, you pad out barefoot into the dark. Your first task is the animals. Chickens cluck impatiently in the coop, and the cow, if your family is fortunate enough to have one, is waiting to be milked. She's stubborn today, shifting in place as you press your forehead gently against her flank, hands cold against the warmth of her body. The milk pail is half filled when a sound from the lane beyond reminds you. Others are stirring. There is always more to do. Water must be fetched from the well. Several minutes walk down a muddy path. You carry 2 wooden buckets balanced on a yoke across your shoulders. The weight bites. The chill is sharper now. You hear the clanging of another bucket in the distance. Another serf, another life, much like your own. Breakfast is simple, often the same every day. Coarse rye bread, perhaps dipped in a weak pottage made from yesterday's scraps. If it's winter, the broth is thinner. If it's summer, you may have onions or leeks to season it. The meal is eaten quickly, standing if you're in a hurry. There is no table for lingering. Soon, you're in the fields. Your hands grip a wooden hoe or a mattock, the handle smooth from years of use. The soil is heavy, dark with moisture, and sticky against your boots. The plow team creaks by oxen, not horses, slow and stubborn. You're not in charge of the plow, not yet. You're just digging, clearing, sowing seed. Work that doesn't need thought, only rhythm. You do this alongside others, but little is said. Conversation is kept short, mostly practical. The work demands your breath. The steward, the man who oversees the Lord's land, may ride by. He rarely speaks to you, only observes. His presence is both distant and heavy, like a shadow cast over the entire field. You are reminded that this land is not yours, that you work it in service, not ownership. By midday, you're sore. You eat again. A bit more bread, perhaps some cheese if you're lucky. You may rest for a short while under a tree, but there is no clock to dictate your return. Only the movement of the sun and the call of your duty. Later, you're called to repair a fence or help thatch a neighbor's roof. Communal work is expected. Everyone helps, and everyone is helped, though always under the weight of obligation rather than choice. You return home when the light begins to fade, with mud up to your calves and dirt caught beneath your nails. There's smoke rising from the chimney. Your mother or wife or sister has rekindled the hearth. The stew has been simmering all afternoon, and though it's mostly cabbage and root, its warmth fills the room in a way that feels almost sacred. The children are already inside. The fire flickers gently, and the shadows stretch long across the walls. There are no books, no lamps, no songs tonight, only the hush of exhaustion. You sit on a stool and eat your share. Then you sleep, because tomorrow will come again just the same. mud, milk. Mourning. This is life, not as a tale of conquest or courtship, but as it truly was for most, bound to the soil, to the season, and to the quiet rhythm of medieval survival. The rhythm of your days has not changed. The same fields, the same aching limbs, the same obligations not only to the land, but to the manor, the tithe barn, and the tax collector. But then something shifts, quiet at first, like a distant crack in ice. It is the year 1381. You have been working the land as your father did before you. But now a new tax has come again, another poll tax, one you cannot afford. It is the third in just 5 years, and this time the anger is sharper than before. You are not alone in your frustration. Word spreads, slowly at first, passed along by traveling laborers, friars, and merchants. There is unrest in the south, they say. In Kent and Essex, villagers are refusing to pay. Bailiffs have been driven off. In some places, tax officials have been beaten. Some are dead. You do not have parchment or proclamations. What you have is rumor, and it grows stronger with each passing day. What's different now is not just the tax, it's everything. The Black Death, that terrible pestilence passed through just a generation ago. It killed many, rich and poor alike, but it left you and your neighbors behind. And in its wake, you notice something? Fewer hands in the field meant your labor mattered more. You could bargain. You could leave and find better wages elsewhere. But the lords did not like this. New laws came quickly after the plague, designed to keep wages low and workers in place. You were told you belonged to the land, that your labor was not yours to price, that freedom was not for people like you. And now, another tax. So you listen, one evening in the village alehouse, to a man with a hoarse voice and sharp eyes. He speaks slowly, but his words feel bold. We are held like oxen. Is this God's will? He asks. A few nod. Others murmur prayers. But the seed has been planted. Soon you hear a name. Wat Tyler. A former soldier. A roofer, they say. He is marching north with others. Thousands. They are not merely protesting. They are headed to London to speak directly to the king. You do not know if it will work, but something in you stirs. You imagine leaving the fields, walking alongside your neighbors, holding a staff or a sickle not for harvest but for statement, not with rage but with quiet determination. Perhaps for the first time in your life, the direction of history feels like it might include you. When the rebels reach London, the city is tense. Some gates are opened, some are forced. The king, just a boy, agrees to meet them. Promises are made. Peasants speak of freedom, of fixed rents, of the end of serfdom. For a brief moment, it seems possible. But then it collapses. Wat Tyler is struck down during negotiations. Some say it was a trick. Others say it was panic. Either way, the uprising fractures. The king revokes his promises. Retaliation follows, swift and cold. The revolt ends. Punishments are handed out. The laws stay in place. And yet, something has changed. You return to your village, perhaps never having left. You return to the fields. The work remains hard. The earth is still heavy. The manor still watches. But the seed is planted deeper now. Across England, the idea of liberty, of not belonging to the land, has entered the minds of thousands. You go on, as before. Yet, beneath the quiet repetition of your life, something stirs. Not rage, not rebellion. Just the thought that things might one day be otherwise. Let us now step back, not just from the village, but further into the past beneath the past. Long before your village had a name written in Latin, or your field was marked on a lord's ledger, there were others here. Others who lived without scrolls, without churches, without the rhythms of feudal life, but whose homes still leave quiet traces in the soil. Their villages are not on the maps you've seen, But beneath certain hills, or in the corners of forgotten fields, there are lines, faint, circular patterns in the grass, visible only from above or only when the light is right. They are the ghostly outlines of ringforts and roundhouses. These were not castles. These were not walled towns. These were small, self-contained worlds, wooden palisades forming a circle around a family's entire life. Inside, a few buildings, one for sleeping, one for animals, maybe a small kiln or hearth for food. Simple tools, clay pots, woven baskets. No glass, no coin. No stone walls. In some places, especially in what is now Ireland, Scotland, and parts of Wales, these ringed settlements existed for hundreds of years, unchanged in rhythm even as kingdoms rose and fell far away. They weren't backward. They were simply self-sufficient, tuned to their own needs. When archaeologists dig here, they find bones, not only of livestock, but of people. They find hearthstones blackened by years of use, fragments of combs, spindle whorls, beads, worn from being touched, over and over again. Nothing grand, nothing gold, just the quiet accumulation of life. A child's tooth, broken pendant, tool worn smooth by repetition. There are stories embedded in these fragments, even if we no longer know the words. Sometimes, traces of longhouses are found. Long timber structures shared by extended families or even several households. Imagine a smoky interior, low ceilings, the scent of old wool, and the quiet movement of bare feet over dirt floors. Imagine the rhythm of voices telling stories by firelight. Stories now gone. Unlike stone castles or abbeys, these villages disappeared not with a crash, but with a whisper. Timber rots, thatch decays. Rain and time do their work. And slowly, all that is left is the pattern of a life. Circular ditches, shallow depressions, stains in the earth. Some of these settlements were abandoned as medieval farming systems took hold. New rules, new landlords, new taxes. The land was reorganized, squared, divided, measured, and the circles of the old ways vanished beneath the plow. But the earth does not forget easily. In some places, farmers plowing deep strike stone. A blade catches on old bone. A child chasing a rabbit finds a piece of pottery in the hedgerow, curved and red and ancient. There is silence in these remnants. But there is also a kind of presence, a memory held not in books, but in landscape. So as you walk across a field in spring, watching the mist settle in hollows between the trees, you might pass right over the homes of those who came long before you. Their lives were different, and yet so familiar. A fire to tend, a fence to mend. A quiet evening. A morning that came too soon. The village you know today rests gently on the shoulders of those that came before. Forgotten, but never quite gone. You've spent your life with the soil beneath your feet, the wind at your back, and a watchful eye on the steward's mood. But today, your errand takes you to a different place. Not just across the fields, but across the boundaries of power. You've been called to the manor hall. It sits atop a small rise, not grand like a castle, but larger and more solid than any house you know. Its timber beams are wide and aged. Its roof, tiled or thatched depending on wealth, slopes steeply against the sky. Sometimes there's a small tower attached, more for show than defense. The air here feels stiller. The noise of animals, of children, of village labor fades as you step into the sphere of the Lord. You approach carefully. Your cap is in hand, your steps deliberate. A mistake here, a wrong word, a misstep, might not bring punishment, but it would bring notice. And being noticed by those in power is not always a blessing. Inside, the great hall stretches ahead, the center of the manor's life. A long wooden table benches along the sides, and at one end, a raised platform where the Lord and his family dine above the rest. The walls are hung with tapestries, if they can afford them, thick fabric that softens the draft and adds a kind of storybook glamour. hunting scenes. Religious symbols, mythical beasts stitched in thread. The fire crackles in the central hearth. Smoke rises toward the rafters where it escapes through a vent in the roof. It doesn't always work. The smoke still hangs in the room, sweet with oak, sharp with fat from roasting meat. Servants move quietly, efficiently. Some are villagers like you, brought in for special tasks. Others are permanent staff. The steward, the reeve, the cook, the cupbearer. Their lives are closer to privilege, but still a world away from nobility. The Lord is a figure of both familiarity and distance. You've seen him ride past on a fine horse, his cloak trimmed with fur, his boots polished. His voice commands attention, but he rarely speaks to you directly. If he does, it's brief. Not cruel, perhaps, but clipped. Your name, if known, is a footnote. Yet his life could not be more different from your own. He eats meat regularly, drinks imported wine, has the right to settle disputes, grant land, collect rents. He may hunt in the surrounding woods, ride to nearby towns for courtly gatherings, and send his sons to be trained as knights. His wife, the lady of the manor, manages the household, and sometimes, in his absence, the estate. She oversees spinning, food storage, and servants. She reads, writes, and prays in a private chapel, if they have one. Their children are taught Latin, sometimes even French. They sleep on feather mattresses. They do not carry water. They do not till soil. Upstairs, in their private solar, there is relative quiet. A cushioned bench by the window. A carved chest of linens. A psalter on a small table. If there is leisure in the medieval world, it is here. Fragile, filtered, and mostly unavailable to those who work the land. For the Lord is not without its own forms of tension. He must balance taxes, loyalty to the crown, and protection of his land. He must provide soldiers when summoned. And when bad harvests come, or disease strikes, even he feels the pressure, though from a different angle. You deliver your message or goods and leave without pause. Your eyes cast low, your back straight. As you return to your part of the village, the manor behind you disappears into the fog that's beginning to settle in the fields. There is no resentment in your heart, or perhaps there is. But it is quiet, folded into the same part of you that stores hunger, repetition, and the passing of time. This is how things are, and how, for generations, they have been. Yet, even in this world of power and privilege, you know one truth. The ground is cold beneath all feet. The fire warms only for a time, and the night falls on high and low alike. And now, dear listener, as the village settles into sleep, so may you. You have walked the muddy path of a serf, heard the distant roar of revolt, wandered the ghost villages lost to time, and stepped briefly into the warmth of a manor hall. The Middle Ages were not only the age of knights and kings, they were the age of repetition, of breath and burden, of hands calloused and quiet prayers said in the dark. So let your thoughts soften. Let them drift across fields and firesides, beneath stars older than memory. And as the medieval village sleeps, perhaps you will too.